Bună, eu sunt Andrei, sunt de la Exploratist și împreună cu AIMS am ajuns aici cu voi ca să vă povestim puțin despre o platformă de learning experience. Împreună am adus această soluție în piața din România, alături de Mihaela și de Dan. Miha, 2 cuvinte despre tine, Dan, 2 cuvinte despre tine, căci am întârziat puțin datorită provocării tehnice.
Ok, mersi. Deci eu sunt Mihaela Perianu, în 1991 am deschis AIMS-ul în București, în 94 AIMS-ul din Timișoara. Noi facem executive și consultanță. Am vrut să găsim un partener pentru zona asta de HR gamified și ne bucurăm foarte mult să vă povestim astăzi despre parteneriatul nostru cu Exploratist și cu Games for Business. Mulțumesc! Dan?
Salut, eu sunt Dan Badiu, sunt în AIMS de 16 ani. După primii 13 ani, e adevărat, am ieșit un pic din zona de consultanță în zona de HR în organizații și m-am reîntors acum 3 ani și o să fiu foarte scurt, fiindcă suntem în criză de timp. Mersi.
Mulțumesc, Dan. Hai să vedem. Bun. Vă spuneam că am adus platforma G4B în România. Platforma Games for Business, pe numele ei complet, este o platformă de learning experience cu multe use case-uri, în sensul că ea este prevăzută ca fiind o platformă care merge pe tot ce înseamnă Employee Life Cycle Journey, de la proiecte de recrutare, partea de assessment, partea de onboarding despre care discutăm astăzi, dar și bucata de employer branding sau partea de învățare. Foarte pe scurt despre platformă, este platformă multipremiată, vă spuneam, ea a luat mai multe premii internaționale pe diverse studii de caz, deja implementate la clienți internaționali. Vă arăt și câteva din portofoliul deja existent al Games for Business și use case-urile din zona de employee experience care se duc, precum vă spuneam, se duc în tot flow-ul de employee life cycle journey. Combinația consultanță-tehnologie, cred că este o combinație mult căutată astăzi, în sensul că suntem într-o perioadă remote, suntem într-o perioadă pandemică, este super mare nevoie de procese digitalizate, mulți dintre noi nu suntem neapărat acolo sau nu am ajuns acolo, sau poate că nu cunoaștem neapărat pe de-a întregul procesul acesta, motiv pentru care împreună cu cei de la AIMS formăm echipa de consultanță pe proiecte de onboarding, în cazul ăsta că vorbim de onboarding astăzi, iar alături de Games for Business, practic ei vin cu partea de tehnologie. Împreună suntem o singură echipă care duc treaba asta mai departe. Bun. Pentru că asta a fost foarte, foarte pe scurt și foarte pe repede înainte, pentru că am avut această provocare cu platforma, o să îl rog pe Peter să intervină. Însă înainte să intervină Peter, Michi, știu că ai vrea tu să ne povestești puțin despre un context foarte particular care ne deschide puțin calea către platforma lui Peter.
Da. Mersi, Andrei.
Te rog.
Noi vă spuneam când m-am prezentat că avem o echipă în București și o echipă în Timișoara. Echipa din Timișoara de peste 20 de ani face studii de salarizare și tot felul de alte studii HR-related, iar în momentul în care a început pandemia, împreună cu ei am făcut ceea ce se numește Pulse Survey-uri. Am făcut niște studii la nivel național. Am avut câteva sute de companii care au participat și rezultatul studiilor în ceea ce privește onboarding-ul este că 24% din companii consideră onboarding-ul în această perioadă ca fiind o dificultate majoră. Și asta cumva ne-a încurajat și mai mult să investim în parteneriatul acesta cu Exploratist și cu Games for Business, pentru că am înțeles, bazat pe studii, că multe companii au această provocare de cum să facă onboarding-ul digital. Și cred că, Andrei, putem să-l dăm microfonul lui Peter să ne introducă în platforma Games for Business.
Da, acum îi transfer accesul și lui Peter. Peter, you can switch to English because I know your Romanian is still uploading, so you can go ahead with switching in English.
Thank you very much. And can everybody see my screen? Just please confirm. Okay.
Yes, 1 second.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and it's my pleasure to be part of this webinar, the first webinar that Games for Business is attending in Romania, to show you a case study, a really interesting project that we have achieved in the Games for Business learning platform, which Andrei has talked about a little bit. And I would like to show you this case study a little bit in detail. So what I will talk about is actually through this title, 3 success factors of an effective onboarding process. What are the main elements that we believe can make onboarding really efficient nowadays? And I want to start with a brief overview of the current market and organizational challenges, which are basically the reasons why we have established the Games for Business learning platform, and which are the reasons why onboarding needs to also adapt to these new challenges and change in the future. And then I will show you through Generali's onboarding example, an interesting case study that proves how an efficient onboarding can actually have very direct effects on the business of the company, even the actual profitability of the company. And of course, at the end, we will try to answer your questions. Hopefully, we'll have lots of them. So let me jump straight into it and talk a little bit about why we have decided there was a need for a digital gamified learning platform and this new type of approach that we bring to the market. And what is it? What are those factors that actually make onboarding also challenging nowadays? So first of all, you have a rapidly changing information environment. Basically, on one side of the onboarding challenges is general social, cultural, technological, and business environment, which is changing really, really rapidly. And you know, probably from your own experience, when you buy a smartphone nowadays, you don't expect to take out the manual of the smartphone and learn how to use the smartphone like you did 15 or 10 years ago. They don't even ship manuals anymore with the smartphones. So you just start using these tools and these services, online services and applications, and they teach their usage on the go, basically. So we are used to very different interaction with information and with tools. And then there is also a growing representation of new generations on the labor market. And these generations, they don't want to learn to do the job first and then maybe months later actually start working. They expect to start working immediately and receive the relevant information right at the point of need. So basically, gradually make them capable to do their job. That's what they're used to, because everything is instant. Everything is a push of a button away nowadays, and that's what these new generations are expecting also in their workplaces. And we call this experience-based work. Many companies nowadays employ experience specialists who are responsible for making sure that the organizational processes and tools are adapted or to these new types of expectations. We also tend to have shorter and shorter attention spans nowadays. Watching a 10-minute video is almost rare nowadays. People expect in this social media and quick sharing frenzy to just digest things in 1 or 2 or 3 minutes, and that's about it. So this adaptation to this short attention span and to this very interactive multitasking lifestyle is also a challenge. And these new hires, especially new generations of job seekers, they reject traditional learning methodologies. They don't want to sit in day-long trainings anymore or read long manuals, etc. So they expect the organizational processes to adapt to this as well. So what are the actual organizational challenges that basically derive from these socio-cultural challenges? Basically, what makes onboarding still crucial is the fact that because of these changes, employees spend less and less time in one workplace. They access much more information and opportunities nowadays. The world has opened up, and therefore they tend to switch workplaces, jobs, even careers much more frequently than 10, 15, or 20 years ago. So companies are experiencing higher turnover rates, and this results in higher recruitment costs. There are statistics that say that 30% of employees leave their organization within the first year, actually, and 60% of those people leave within the first 6 weeks of employment. So you can see how crucial these first couple of weeks are when it comes to an employee life cycle. And the cost of losing an employee can be up to 3 times that person's salary. So making onboarding more efficient is a key to overcoming these problems. And the pressure on organizations is increasing also to train employees ever more efficiently and quickly, to make them capable to do their job as quickly as possible, because likely they will not spend 3 or 4 or 5 years in the same position at the same company. So, and then, of course, companies don't want to waste time and resources. So we at Games for Business, we believe that there are 3 key success factors to an engaging onboarding process. And I would like to share with you what these elements are and how we can apply them in practice in the case study. So first of all, we need to have an engaging process, of course. But what does that mean, obviously? So we believe that if you can provide a transparent, easily understandable, clear process that follows workplace processes that can guide the user step by step in small steps through the whole process, makes it clear to the learner or to the user what is expected from them, what kind of outcomes they can expect. That is a huge benefit in terms of engagement. And of course, from a digital solution, you would expect consistency. Nowadays, people are used to subjectivity being reduced to a minimum. They expect to have the same experience as everybody else, regardless of who is their line manager or their mentor or anything. But in order to get a process started, you need to have triggers. You need to provide some sort of external motivation in order to answer the question to the user or to the learner. Why should I even bother? Why should I care about this? So you need to get things started, but of course you also need to maintain motivation. So you need to have tools and elements in the process that will keep people engaged in the long term, not only for the first couple of minutes or days. And my goal today is to show you how a successful onboarding process can have a very direct effect on actual business processes. Generally, the example where you can see they have improved their sales performance by almost 20% only through changing their onboarding process. I hope will be very educational in this respect. And before I go into the details of this project, I would like to show you a brief video through which you can experience a little bit this onboarding journey, and then of course I will show you the details. So let me turn off my camera and share with you the video.
The insurance industry is facing several challenges regarding sales. Why? Because it's not only companies who see their profession losing its appeal, but their newly hired colleagues feel it too. Generali, market leader in several countries, is no exception. The first 3 months on the job are critical for an insurance sales agent. They acquire the necessary know-how in this period. If they don't receive it in an adequate form, they will not be successful. This causes a business loss for the company and serious frustration for the agent. This is where Generali has challenged itself. What do we need to do in order to keep these agents and show them how they can be successful and proud of their job? Generali's solution was the transformation of its sales onboarding process. They created a digital, experience-based onboarding system that transfers practical knowledge and guides new agents along with the training elements and processes during their first 100 days. The gamified and visually engaging interface supports them to acquire the knowledge needed for the insurance profession, and it clearly presents them the opportunities offered by Generali. With the rewards received for their results, users directly influence their potential earnings level during the first 100 days, and they can also redeem them for exciting prizes. This way, colleagues directly perceive how their performance influences their business success. This new digital platform has shown and is still bringing results well exceeding set targets. And the biggest success is that Generali has managed to retain 99% of its new colleagues after the 100-day onboarding.
Okay, I hope everybody was able to follow the video, but don't worry if you didn't. You will be, the links to the video and the case study will be shared with you after the webinar anyway, so you'll have the chance to share it also with your colleagues. But let me tell you a little bit of the background of this project. What were the key challenges that Generali was facing in Hungary before they started to change their onboarding process? Well, they are a market leader in Hungary. And they recognized, even though they're market leader, if they don't start tackling these challenges now, they will face significant problems in the future. So the shortage of labor, which was true before the pandemic, maybe not so much true anymore, was one of the biggest challenges, because not only was there a shortage of skilled and qualified labor force, but also the insurance industry nowadays is absolutely not appealing to job seekers. They don't see it as a potentially cool job. Everybody wants to work for startups, tech companies. This is what's trending nowadays. Old-fashioned sales agent type of positions are less appealing. So the company also realized they have to care about their long-term aftergrowth to make it sustainable. The average age of the company is already over 50, so they need to refresh the company, because if they don't have, not only will they soon lose their workforce because of retirement, but also they cannot attract new generations of clients if they don't have new generations of sales agents who can establish new networks. So, and the fourth challenge that I highlighted here, previously, before this intervention, their onboarding process was very fragmented and inefficient. So they wanted to change that to provide a more consistent experience for everybody. And the three main goals that they defined when they started this project, the first one, probably not the most important one, increase the number of job applicants. It's not so important because Generali actually had quite a few applicants already to their companies. The problem was that they were losing these applicants during the onboarding process. So in that first critical 2 or 3 months, they were losing the vast majority of the new applicants. So instead of wasting more and more money just to recruit more and more people, instead they decided to improve the efficiency of the onboarding and decrease the high attrition rate. And as a third goal, they also wanted to lower the average age of their employees because of the aftergrowth that I was mentioning before. So this is what they set out. And before they even started doing anything, the first step in this whole revamping of the onboarding process was they defined what are the output competencies that they expect from an ideal salesperson. So what makes a good salesperson successful? They had all the experience. They are market leaders for more than 25 years or almost 30 years by now on the market. So they probably know how you need to do sales well. And this list includes, of course, professional knowledge, to be up to date on the product and service information, to know what you're selling to your clients, and to be able to answer their questions confidently. Technological proficiency. Generali, like most other companies, and probably yours as well, offers lots of digital tools and other tools to help people in their daily activities, to support them, to make their work more efficient. So the efficiency of the sales agents will be defined by how well they use these tools that are applicable or available for them. Self-sufficiency in sales is very important. These people are not employees. They are not. They are only contracted freelance sales agents. Therefore, they need to be able to work independently on their own without constant supervision and sitting in an office all day. Community activity is also important, belonging to a community, because if you train people, you recruit people, you train people, you invest energy, resources into them, and then maybe they leave because they find a similar opportunity at your competitor, then you just wasted all that money and energy, and even they take the know-how away from your company. So it's important that you make these people feel that they belong to your company. And motivation, of course, we're talking about independent, basically freelancer sales agents. So you need to create not only reach, but also maintain an adequate level of engagement and motivation for the long term. So that was the first step in this process. And what Generali created together with Games for Business is a 100-day-long onboarding program that was supported by our digital onboarding and digital gamified learning platform. But it was based on 4 main pillars, and 3 of these pillars were things that Generali was already using before. They were just restructured a little bit, because of course there are some trainings that are mandatory and can only be handled maybe in classroom format. So these things, not all of them, but many of them were still, of course, kept. Then there's an e-learning platform, which most companies already have invested millions of euros into. So, and that's something that is already available to provide the up-to-date product and professional knowledge. The problem is, and this was what Generali was also facing, that they're not satisfied with the engagement level of how much their employees or their sales agents use this this e-learning platform. So it's there. There's all this information that is updated into it, but people just don't use it really, and then they don't enjoy using it because it's not really engaging and motivating. Then there's territorial support, of course. So there's mentoring teams. Everybody has a mentor who they belong to, who they can turn to if they have some problem. It's a very important interpersonal support. It's still crucial in many positions. But what was new to the whole process was the gamified learning platform that basically provided the process management. It served kind of the role of a virtual coach or a virtual mentor who guided the users through the whole process, and it made it easier for them to accept and digest the whole process for the new hires. Basically, it was serving multiple aspects: transparency, clarity, consistency. It made everything plannable. It provided daily challenges. So that's why the gamified learning platform was basically providing a whole frame around this 100-day onboarding process, through which all the new hires went through. A very crucial element in the training of a salesperson is how do you create behavioral habits? How do you make them understand what is the salesperson's daily behavior? All those tasks that need to be incorporated into their daily routine to become routine that will make them successful in the long term. So in order to make it easy for these new hired people to understand what this behavior that they expect is, they translated that into individual activities.
Lucrează pe o altă platformă, pe o altă versiune a platformei, sau că demo-urile noastre sunt pe altă versiune a platformei.
Okay, I didn't understand that, but I hope it was adding to the conversation too. So the activities that I'm talking about are basically real-life activities that these people, the newly hired sales agents, have to do daily in order to, train themselves or make themselves capable salespeople in the long term. And in the system, they receive all the necessary information that supported them in this process. Basically, what am I expected to do is the first question. So the system defined the day-to-day activities that affect sales, like establishing new contacts, doing needs assessment with the clients, preparation of contracts. All these things need to become routine for the newly hired colleague. How often do I need to complete the activity? So basically, the new hired people need to learn how to prioritize based on the importance of different tasks. That was also crucial. Who do I need to involve in an activity? Often, maybe the mentor. The activities were usually validated either by line managers or mentors or other colleagues. Basically, the other colleagues confirmed the completion of the activity for the learners, and the learners received the rewards, digital rewards in return. And this created a joint sense of responsibility in this development process. And then fourth, and not least importantly, what's my benefit from doing the activity? And there was a rewarding mechanism behind this that reflected the significance of the individual tasks. So these collective virtual rewards could also be redeemed for things, but I will show you that on the next slide. So we already established that you need to create external motivation in order to trigger the process, to answer the question, why? Why should I care? Why should I start this? Why should I get myself involved? And there are multiple external motivational elements that we applied in the platform. instant and continuous feedback, because we all need to understand how we're doing, where we're heading, how we're progressing, what is the journey that leads us to perfection. It's very crucial, and the digital tool is very efficient in providing constant and continuous feedback. Virtual rewards strengthen this feedback by providing confirmation, with badges and points that you can collect. But then there comes the third element, real-life rewards, because you saw in the video that the generally newly hired sales agents, they were able to redeem their virtual points and rewards for physical rewards, maybe some interesting merchandise items or some gifts or a voucher. But what they were also able to do is they were able to influence their actual earnings level, their real-life salary, with the points they earned from the learning platform. This was a very bold step that Generali took in this project, because they were showing to the employees the effort you put into your development in the beginning will influence your salary, just like later as a when you become a full-fledged salesperson, the effort you put daily into your work will influence how much money you will earn. Because as a salesperson, you can actually make a really good living, a really decent, actually more than decent living if you do your job regularly and well. And then what are the internal motivation elements that I would also like to highlight that create a long-term involvement or engagement? Bonding, belonging to a community is very important, and users were able to create teams based on employee groups. There was a cooperative effort, the validation of activities, as I mentioned, to approve each other's activities in the system, and the feedback. All of this was intended to help people feel this sense of belonging to a community and interacting with their colleagues. The second internal motivational element is independence, creating a self-conscious behavior, which is crucial in an independent salesperson's life. It's people play and use the system, learning the system individually, provides an individual gameplay that is supported by clear frames, clear rules, but the user has a certain freedom. They decide when they do certain tasks and how they solve them within the provided frames. And what's also provided in terms of freedom and independence is the mobility, because it's a cloud-based solution. It's accessible on tablet, smartphone, or desktop, that they can access it from anywhere at any time. So it provides them the flexibility that they need as independent salesmen. Then we have excellence, perfecting our skills. We all try to reach perfection, and the system provided lots of opportunities for replay, restarting the training process, practice mode of daily, of learning games, where they could practice their knowledge levels. And the system provided daily goals, so smaller achievable goals for both individual and group motivation. And they could collect badges and work towards a higher goal, a long-term goal in the system. So this was all very important to create the necessary engagement and to provide the success of this project. So before I tell you the results, what Generali was able to achieve with this platform, I wanted to highlight some of the benefits, some of the main advantages that Generali, as our client, has highlighted as the main benefits of the platform that it brought to this onboarding process. So what are these? Firstly, there's practicality. The system provides all the practical knowledge in a step-by-step process, broken down or into a micro-learning format for easier digestion. Secondly, there is commonality. It provides a uniform integration process, uniform expectations for all of the newly hired colleagues, regardless of their geographical locations or who their mentor is or any other factors. It's measurable, so everything is precisely measured, the learning activities, it's clearly visible and trackable, both for the learner, how they're progressing, and both for the organization to see how the learners are doing and to improve the whole overall process based on all these reports and statistics. We have consistency, clear expectations, predefined rules, transparent processes, and the rewarding mechanism all help the users to receive a consistent experience. And then last but not least, flexibility, that within these clear goals and frames, the users have their freedom to do everything along their individual priorities. So these were the benefits that Generali highlighted. But what did they manage to achieve with the system? This is also a key aspect. And I already highlighted one metric, which was the almost 20% improvement in the sales performance of the company. So by changing the new hires' attitude towards the whole learning process, basically, Generali was able to make them more efficient salespeople, and they generated almost 20% more revenue for the company. And being the market leader, this is a huge number. This revenue improvement was equal to some of their competitors' entire annual revenue. So that's the biggest impact, even though this was not even a KPI originally in this process, in this transformation process. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that 71% of those people who applied to the onboarding trainings actually stayed and committed to Generali after the process. What's I think even more telling is that 99% of those people who actually started the training, because people apply to these positions, to these companies a lot, but oftentimes they don't even show up on the first day of training. So, but those people who actually started the training process, and lots of them were leaving the company in these first 3 months. Now, 99% of the people stayed in Generali at the end of the onboarding process and continue their journey to become salespeople. I mentioned how important it is that companies already invested lots of money into e-learning platforms, for example. So by connecting our platform with the existing e-learning platform of Generali and creating these connections and providing the guidance, the support for the user to understand their daily activities, their learning materials, and what they need to do in the different learning phases, we managed to improve the engagement level on the existing learning platforms, on the traditional e-learning platforms by 33% as well. And one of the key goals, also the key KPI, was also to reduce the average age of the company. And 75% of an average of the newly hired colleagues were below age 35. So they generally used in their campaign, in their recruitment messages, they used this new type of onboarding, this new approach. They communicated about it. The new colleagues were sharing their experience on social media, and this attracted more younger generation of talent pool into the company. Last but not least, also important is that 33% of all of the learning activity came from outside of working hours, from the evenings and weekends, commuting times. This shows you that if you have an engaging process, engaging learning tool, then people will be happy to use it even in their free time. So this was what I wanted to highlight from this project for you. And of course, I'm happy to answer your questions related to this project in just a minute. Based on the success and the engagement levels, Generali has also started to change other processes in their organization, and now they already use our gamified learning tool in their internal academy. They do digital awareness trainings with it. So it goes beyond onboarding. If you take this efficiency and apply it in other areas, and you can see some typical challenges on this slide that some of the clients who have used and applied the Games for Business learning platform have been facing, which are probably challenges that your organizations are also facing in these different stages of the employee life cycle. And let me highlight for you some of the results that we managed to achieve in these different employee life cycle stages, like attracting more people as candidates to PwC, or involving in a voluntarily more than 50% of a typically blue-collar company like Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola's production plant, into a corporate training program on a voluntary basis. So these are just some of the examples, or how we managed to decrease the attrition rate at BP from 23% down to 9%. If you're interested in this project, we're happy to share more case studies with you. There are videos that you can check out on our YouTube channels. But more importantly than that, I would love to answer your questions related to the system or this onboarding process. Thank you very much for your attention, and let's move on to, let's give it back to Andrei. Hopefully you're still here with us.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for the nice presentation. It was really fast, so that gives us quite some time for a Q&A session. just by the book. So we have enough time to actually do this. So I have done Mihaela, Peter here, and we are open for questions. Questions for Mihaela about the findings that we have had with the report that was generated by AIMS Timișoara about the needs and about the onboarding processes and the recruitment that is impacting actually the onboarding process as well. For me and Dan as well, if you have any questions about the onboarding process, and for Peter about, of course, the case study that he presented, and any inside information that you would want to deep dive into it, put it on the chat function or on the Q&A function, wherever you would like or wherever it's easier for you, and we can give it a try. Dan, before we actually collect these questions, I know that you have at least 1 or 2 slides that are quite interesting about what we have collected as information from our guests, and it would be nice to show Peter this, because I think we also have some questions up front from that segment as well. So give me a few seconds to take this and show my screen. And let me know if my screen is on.
Yes, it's on.
Cool. Dan, can you help me with this slide, please?
Yeah, no problem. I will switch in English so Peter can also understand what we're talking about, because he will probably reply to the questions, many of the questions.
Yeah.
First of all, thank to all the participants that they completed and filled in with some information when signing in. According to the findings, when we put together all the information from all the participants, about 81 companies at that point, about 55% of them said that the onboarding process it's a priority already in the company, with about 25% saying that it's a priority and they are doing something about it, and the difference that they will do something about it, more or less. So this is the initial reply regarding the onboarding process in general.
Mm-hmm.
If you can move to the next slide. Okay, so
I think this is the slide that you want.
Yeah, yes, this was the slide about what they want to gain from participating to this webinar. First of all, many of the participants said that they would like to understand how other companies are doing the onboarding. Unfortunately, we cannot reply to this question. We can show you how we can do the onboarding, or G4B is doing the onboarding. Unfortunately, it's not interactive, that interactive I should be. Then they would like to find out, Peter, how flexible is the platform, how much personalization can it support, and why should they choose G4B solutions and not other solutions which are on the market. Some of the people wanted to find out how can they make more efficient the onboarding process overall. Of course, many of the participants wanted to understand how it works, the G4B solution, and this I think it was already quite covered from what you have said. And another question that I think that it was at least partially covered in your last slide, Peter, it's to see in what way and if this platform can be useful to other internal needs, such as training and other needs. So this were the main
okay.
wishes.
So since I cannot read the Romanian, can we go one by one?
Yep. So the first one, it's useless for you. You don't know how other companies are doing onboarding. We'll go directly to the second one to understand how flexible this platform is, how many and what type of information you can put in, how can it be personalized to the company's needs?
Yes, so thank you for the questions. And it was interesting to see these results that you have shared with us. The system is totally flexible because we're talking about a learning tool, a digital learning tool that can accommodate very different types of content, whether it's on client content coming from, onboarding content coming from client or internal compliance trainings, product trainings, or whatever else. It's absolutely flexibly capable to cater to all these different internal learning or information transfer requirements. And in many cases, we even use it for projects where we communicated, in an employer branding scenario with the platform. And we can create so we have a standard system that can provide that we customize to provide unique learning journeys based on your organizational needs. And we're actually coming up with a new updated version of our platform, which will be even more provide even more flexibility and even more easy ways to adapt it to all the different learning goals that our clients are having. And when it comes to the user interface, which also has some standard graphic environments, which you've seen, for example, you can see this space type of theme also in the slide that is shared right now. We have space adventure type of theme, but we also have in the general example, you could see a very different graphic environment with the sea adventure type of environment or narrative. We can provide very unique narratives, and we can create branded and customized versions of them. So there's a lot of possibility to customize the platform to your organizational processes and contents.
Okay, yes, and I wanted to continue with a question that I also saw. It's in which way this platform can be integrated in existing already systems, or if there are bits and pieces of it already gamified, if it's possible to integrate everything.
So in most of the places, in most of our client projects, we do connect our platform to existing databases, existing learning systems of the clients, because of course they will not throw out existing multi-million-dollar LMS platforms. But what we can do is, as I also have hopefully have been able to successfully show with the general example, is that by connecting our system to these existing learning platforms or other types of exam databases or whatever, we can improve the engagement levels of the people. We can make it, we can integrate all these different tools, these digital tools, into a more transparent and more easily comprehensible, more easily digestible learning process for the learners. So I think our tool is a very good coach for the engagement tool and coach for the users in order to understand at what stage they should use what systems and how they should use them.
Okay, I asked this
Peter,
question
a quick question from the audience. Dan, just a second, please hold your question, because Peter was discussing about or telling us about the generally use case, and I think that the next question is related to that use case. Peter, the question is like this. Was the Generali project implemented just locally, or was it spread on multiple countries? And if the answer is yes, or maybe you have an answer that is with yes at multiple countries, how did you take into consideration the diversity level? For example, East Europe versus West Europe, or South Europe or North Europe, because the cultural difference is quite big.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the project started in Hungary. That was the pilot project was the onboarding. So we started with onboarding with Generali in Hungary, and it grew, as I mentioned in the presentation, it grew now to become a more strategic learning tool for the company. So they're not only using it for onboarding, but in other areas as well. And obviously, the success of this platform, not only the numbers that I have shared, but also this project has received lots of international awards and recognitions for Generali. It has, of course, aroused the interest of their international network. And we have already started discussions and conversations with various other Generali affiliate offices in different countries. We are also in contact with the headquarters in Italy, in Milan. And we are starting interventions of our platform for their needs in Italy, in Austria, and there's also interest from other regions as well. So So far, currently, it's a Hungarian project, but it's soon to be spreading out into other international branches of Generali.
Okay.
Back to diversity, I just wanted to answer that question. Even though our platform, when you look at the interface, it looks very gamified, very young, very unique, and very different from a typical corporate learning platform. Games for Business is an outsider to the HR and learning market. Therefore, we bring a very user-centric approach. And I think our system and the processes in our system and the whole learning process is very easy to understand, regardless of age or regional backgrounds. We have seen that blue collar and white collar employees use it alike, and sometimes the blue collars are even more active in that sense. We've done surveys where we've surveyed younger and older generations of employees who use our platform, for example, at BP, another client of ours. And the only difference was that the young people are basically expecting these solutions because they have much more experience with similar solutions, whereas the older ones they appreciate it because they like this new approach. It makes life easier for them in the learning process. So we have not seen any challenges or issues with any age or cultural gaps yet. We've applied our platform in Asia. One of our partner companies has used it in Africa. We have clients who use it in North America. So it's not I don't see any challenge with that. As long as the learning process is transparent and the content in the platform is useful and relevant for learners, I think the platform can add a lot of engagement and efficiency to it.
Okay. Another question from the audience, and I think it's really relevant because in terms of the onboarding process, it's like really the process itself is really like cool and fun, and while you are designing it, but the hardcore part is who is actually implementing and who is doing the creation side of what needs to be actually put in the platform. So I think this is really a good question because it involves at least tens of hours of working from an instructional designer and someone from the back end and so on. So who is doing all that?
Okay, so first of all, any client who works with us and does revamps their onboarding or any other learning process can count on a lot of experience that we already have with tons of clients. We create lots of different learning journeys for different clients. Of course, the involvement of the client is important because we need to understand their goals, their organizational situation where we are implementing the platform, and of course they provide the source materials for the content. But even if our client doesn't have too many free resources to be involved in the implementation, we can provide lots of implementation support because we have experience. We can take the materials and we can interview the necessary people, and based on that we can create an engaging learning journey or onboarding journey for the clients. So of course it's a close collaboration, and the more complex the onboarding journey, the more complex will be the cooperation as well. Like for example, in the case of Generali, where they also had the performance of the learners be influenced their earnings levels, even the legal department needed to be involved in that sense, and the payroll department. But that's a very rare example. In most of our client projects, it's a much more simple implementation, and because we're building everything on a ready-made system with ready-made processes and lots of experience, these implementations take 2 or 3 months to create maximum. So don't need to be scared away. They look very spectacular, but we have standard templates and processes.
Okay, so it doesn't take a year long to actually set up this this platform. Okay. Okay, good. That's a good information because it was part of the main question, and it was important for us to answer it. Another really good question is, okay, we know about the onboarding, we know that it's like a general type of process, but we also know that big companies look for like a special made design in terms of onboarding, if we are talking about management, if we are talking about senior second line management, or if we are talking about third line or even specialist. So did you ever receive such a request, and how did you approach it in terms of having the same type of onboarding process, but with different type of sets within the process?
That's absolutely not a problem because we can create different user groups in the system, and that way we can differentiate the learning contents and have shared contents, but also contents that are exclusive to certain user groups. That's absolutely not a problem. This kind of complexity can be handled by the system easily. And we are doing it also for Generali, where they started with onboarding, but now they're using it for not only for sales agent onboarding, but other onboarding for other roles as well. And they're also using it for internal learning processes. So you can easily differentiate the contents in that regard.
Okay, cool. Is the platform mobile, Peter, or not?
Absolutely. It's fully optimized for mobile and tablets and desktop. You can use it in portrait mode on your smartphone for more convenience, and we even provide the opportunity to have like a native mobile application that can be downloaded onto the smartphones and can automatically log the user into the system and have a more streamlined experience. So it's fully mobile, yes.
Okay. Another question: is it possible to have the onboarding process and also be linked with the learning process? Because after you get into the company, you have an onboarding process which lasts for a couple of months, and after that, of course, the company wants to train you or put information in you and make some certain abilities work better. So you switch to the learning and development process. Did you have any use case that a customer took the onboarding process but also used the platform for the learning and development process within the company?
Generali is one of such examples, but we also have many banks, for example, also use it in the region who some of them started with digital awareness training, and then they started using it for onboarding, or they started with onboarding and then started using it for other areas. So there's examples for both of them. The system is absolutely scalable, and it's easy to start with a small pilot project and then expand from there. We've even had clients, big regional banks, who started using the system for onboarding, and then now they're even using it at certain management events to engage their management at the event itself. So there's a lot of interesting possibilities how you can apply the platform.
Okay. Another question from the audience, and probably we will take one more because we are a little bit off time, but I think that's okay because we still have some people left with us. Is the platform able to have multiple languages? Because, for example, there are companies where we have 2 languages, and we need to have the preset set for 2 languages. Is that process possible?
It is, yes. We already have projects that run in 4 or 5 countries parallel, and we can accommodate that as well. Yes, it's no problem.
Okay, cool. Dan, any other questions or insights from your end? Because I know that you have taken a quite close look towards the input that the attendees have put by answering the questions.
No, maybe just the last one, if it's also suitable to other needs, but I think it's already covered. Because otherwise, from what I've extracted as information, we are talking about as expectations about seeing how things are working and seeing the example.
I think the reason why this kind of approach and tool can be applied in these different scenarios is because there are some common denominators in these different scenarios. And the first one being, there's always some kind of information you want to deliver to a target group, whether it's training information, onboarding. In onboarding, there's a lot of organizational information about processes and tools. Or if it's an employer branding, you want to deliver information about your company, about your organizational culture. So basically, you want to deliver information, and you want to create a motivation or engagement, some trigger to get people interested in processing that information. So this is the key, basically, to motivate users to process the information, not overwhelm them with information, but adapt to their new user habits and to these and use the possibilities that come from tools like from methodologies like gamification, microlearning, repetitive learning, and the mobile and instant feedback and everything.
Okay, cool. Peter, thanks for all your information and the availability of answering to all of our questions. If anyone has any other questions, you can feel free to drop us an email and we can easily go ahead and answer them. Of course, if you would like a live demo, that is also available. I know that we have the availability from Peter to actually put us the live demo at hand, so we can actually do it, me or Dan, we can easily get in touch with you guys and actually show you the platform on live, and it's actually real, it's working, and you can see it how it actually works. So if you have 45 minutes up to 1 hour of a cool conversation and a nice coffee, we can easily set up this type of meeting, and we can show you also the platform as well. Peter, thanks again for your input. Dan, thanks again for summing up the needs of our participants. Just as the roundtable, I would like to add that after the end of this session, all the guests will receive the presentation automatically, and also the case study, Peter, that you have sent us with the 2-page detailed information about the outcomes, because I think in this type of process it's really important to have the results and to measure the impact that such a tool has in an organization. So that will be sent directly to everybody that has attended this meeting. Mihaela, if you have anything else to add, please go ahead. No, okay, good. So thanks again, everybody. Apologies for being a little bit delayed. I think that the technology has made a trick on me, but probably the next one is going to be much better with a little bit less delayed in starting up the webinar. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of the remaining week, and have fun in the weekend.
Nice weekend to everybody.
Yeah, fun.
Thank you.
Ciao, guys. Thanks
Ciao, ciao.
again.